Here's everything that you need to know about firebending. Firebending is a trigger that happens when this creature is declared as an attacker, which will give you a trigger to add an amount of red mana equal to the number next to firebending. And the creature had to be declared as an attacker. If it's put onto the battlefield already attacking, then you will not get that trigger. After you've declared it as an attacker, the trigger will go on the stack. And yes, it will go on the stack because it is not a mana ability. In order for it to be considered a triggered mana ability, it needs to 1. Not target, 2. Trigger from a mana ability or from mana being added to your mana pool, and 3. Add mana itself. Since the trigger for firebending doesn't go off from mana abilities or from mana being added to your mana pool, and instead triggers from being declared as an attacker, it is not considered a mana ability, which means players can respond to firebending before that trigger can resolve. So if I didn't cast any spells this turn and I declared firebending student as an attacker, firebending X trigger would go on the stack, but we checked this trigger on resolution. So if I responded to that trigger with brute force, giving the firebending student +3/+3, which would also trigger the prowess, giving it +1/+1. When we go to resolve this trigger, we'll see that the creature's power is 5, so X will be 5, giving you 5 red mana that you can use until the end of combat. But your opponent can also respond to this before you can get any of that mana. So if I tapped out for a creature spell and I declared firebending student as an attacker, the trigger for firebending will go on the stack, then my opponent can cast shock targeting my firebender. And since I'm tapped out and firebending is still on the stack, I can't cast brute force in order to save it with its prowess trigger. Now, if we are successfully able to resolve firebending, then that mana will last until the end of combat. So on declare attackers is when you will first get that mana, and it will last until declare blockers, on combat damage, and then end of combat. And yes, there is a step after the combat damage step, which is the end of combat. It's where things like Myriad will put a trigger on the stack to exile that token that we created at the end of combat. And if triggers could be put on the stack, that means players also have a round of priority. But as soon as we move out of that combat phase, that red mana will disappear, unless you had something else that could stop that red mana from disappearing. That's all I have for firebending. If I missed anything, leave any comments or questions down below.